What's up, everybody? Thralls Mellow here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin, John.
And we have yet another album review for you. And one I've been hearing quite a bit of buzz about, and because it was compared to a certain band that I may or may not be wearing, I definitely am, I had to check it out. So we're going to go over the newest offering from Kommand, Death Age. This also comes out on the 31st of March on 20 Buck Spin. This band formed in Los Angeles in 2015. This is their second album overall. And this is some flat out disgusting, groovy, kind of caveman death metal with a lot of love for Bolt Thrower in it.
Yeah, I mean, how can you go wrong with a lot of love for Bolt Thrower? It seems like a lot of bands tend to draw from that well, and these guys really drew from that well.
Well put. This is legit my first experience with this band, though I know I saw their first album in Maggot Stomp's distro, and I just didn't get it for whatever reason. Apparently I'm going to have to double back and get this one, because this pretty much kind of falls in line with a lot of these current death metal bands that sort of embrace hardcore, groovy, old school death metal, and, well, I mean, Bolt Thrower worship, especially because they do the Bolt Thrower sound really well. Groove-laden, big, epic riffs and harmonies that aren't necessarily like dark and dingy entirely, but they're maybe a little bit triumphant. Like, you feel evil, but you feel like you kick someone's ass too at the same time. It's kind of a cool, vibe there.
You evil ass kicker, you. Now, if you haven't figured it out, there's a certain sound that comes with this album. That's because it's an Arthur Risk production. He knows how to produce big, nasty, slimy, grimy, dirty sounding music.
My God, the guitars, immediately. Like, as soon as you hear them, it is this just giant full sound backed up by a thunderous bass, booming fucking drums, and fiercely old school death metal roars. Very 90s death metal sound, especially the vocals. Like, not quite Carl Willits, but I would say, honestly, what I found was kind of a good comparison was Brutality. Like, Brutality, their frontman has like just a good kind of even kilter growl, and that is exactly what this dude has, plus the right amount of reverb to make it sound like he is, well, in this case, growling from inside of a giant tank.
Right from the get-go, no synths, no nothing, just boom. Nasty, grimy, snarled guitar riffs.
Groovy as hell, big fucking breakdowns. Like, this band kind of just goes for like the caveman sort of approach, but again, like, it has that hardened sort of battle metal sound, again, like Bolt Thrower.
Yeah.
This is like caveman in fucking combat gear. Like, they are armed to the fucking teeth. They'll never be an officer. They will always be a grunt, and they are just fucking in it for the fucking fight, the blood, the fucking gore, all that fun shit. And honestly, the first three songs on here really just kind of capture that Bolt Thrower spirit sort of mixed in with, again, this new school, old school death metal vibe. Again, big riffs, big lumbering chugs. Again, with this guitar tone, I think you could play just about anything and it would sound like the heaviest fucking thing on the planet.
Yeah. Old school Bolt Thrower, new school Frozen Soul. That's pretty much where we're at.
A little bit of Creeping Death, a little bit of Gate Creeper in there.
Yep.
All the creeps are present on that one. I'm pretty sure there's another creeping band I could have thrown in there that sounds kind of like this too, but I couldn't think of it. Global Death is a big standout for me because it's one of the few songs where I'd say, like, they take the time to build up some atmosphere. You have this isolated, doomy, harmony on here. Like, it's noticeably a little bit darker sounding, but it still has that sort of Bolt Thrower sort of triumphant sound. And when it comes down to the Bolt Thrower sound, it's a mix of the eras. Like, you get a lot of that For Victory sort of groove, which we are jamming in the background because it is a god tier fucking album. But you also have a little bit of the Realm of Chaos sound in there, where it's kind of more death grind. Like, there's still a little bit of that crust punk behind it. It's a little bit filthy and dingy. But again, this sort of atmospheric setup with these isolated guitars, I like how it shifts into this doom-laden tremolo riff and this kind of slow groove underneath it. It feels absolutely sinister, and that is something this band does pretty well in terms of balancing out the more battle-hardened, fucking ass-kicking riffs to the more sinister, dark, and evil-sounding ones that are maybe a little bit more in line with, like, Morbid Angel.
It's like getting stomped by a herd of depressed elephants.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they're not moving that fast, but either way, you're pretty well fucked if they land on you.
Now, don't let us make you think that the entire album is just slow, doomy chugs and nasty fucking grooves. Towards the back half of the record, it actually gets a little bit more high energy when you get around Fleeing Western Territories. starts out with the sour lemon dark tremolo melody, but then picks up the pace. You get a lot more blasts here, a lot of D beats, just a lot of stuff to kind of kick up the jams a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of the blasts are like kind of real stompy sounding. Like they're a little bit slower, but you're getting that like resounding fucking pop on the snare. There's a little bit more groove to them too. Like it's kind of one you can still kind of groove along at the same pace as like the double time sort of bolt thrower groove that is again all over this album. But it's the riffs that kind of change around a little bit. Like you still get a little bit of that triumphant, bolt thrower vibe, but again, darker, more sinister, especially on Fleeing Western Territory. Notably more aggressive, more thick, chunky riffs, like a little bit of like Broken Hope or Suffocation kind of got mixed in there, and they decided to have a nice little party around tanks and guns and other cool shit.
Now there is a little lead work in here. It's not real prevalent by any means. Most leads, like in Chimera Soldier or Fleeing Western Territories, they're just quick, like little dive bomb melodic solos. I'm talking probably like 10-20 seconds. The lead tone is really nice, but it's very short. Just kind of mixes it up a little bit. Not real big in the way of leads, but they're in there.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of atmosphere, like this is very cut and dry, like right on to the next track. Occasionally you can hear like a little bit of like a analog like hiss in the background.
A little bit of a crackle, yeah.
But yeah, the leads are, again, melodic. They have like a nice balance of being melodic and being flat out savage with the dive bombs and shit. Especially on Polar Holdout, there's a really cool transition where it gets just super aggressive and it's just nothing but Slayer dive bombs there until it gets into this absolutely fucking nasty bolt thrower stomp, which again, bolt thrower comparisons are all over this album, and I mean it's even down to the themes. They talk about war and death like bolt thrower talks about war and death. Maybe minus the history degree that Carl Willits has. I'm sure there's some community college courses they could go to actually get that cred, but the old school bolt thrower way is still the way, and it still carries on this album. This album's strengths are basically in its just primal aggression. When it is laying on sick grooves and chuggy riffs and kind of sticking in that wheelhouse of just being a little bit more meat and potatoes, but being like brutal meat and potatoes, they fucking excel. Like this is a flat out heavy, disgusting album. It's when they kind of get outside of that or maybe try to get a little too flashy or a little too creative that maybe some of the songs kind of suffer from like a couple of hiccups. Global Death, while I would say it's one of my favorite tracks on here and it's definitely a standout in terms of like the mood overall, like it is notably one of the more doomy, just ominous sounding tracks, really builds up steam too. Like I think it's the one that I think they really do a good job with dynamics in this sort of like caveman sort of wheelhouse they have. But towards the end, it takes this weird shift towards like a more mid-tempo song to a more blasty song. And honestly, the shift is kind of jarring. It almost feels like the start of a new song.
Yes.
The song, I think, would have stood out a little bit more if it was like the lone, just flat out doomy, ugly song. Like Fleeing Western Territory kind of stands out as a more aggressive song. Like everything about it is aggressive. It's a little bit faster. There's more blast beats to it. Same thing with Chimera Soldiers. It is notably a little bit more fast and more aggressive, and it holds the course.
And Collapse Metropolis also plays into the higher energy factor. A lot of blast beats, a lot of D beats, really kind of cooking. But then it also plays into the kind of transition happy thing where they do a nice job of building, and they use these really big, again, doomy melodies, but when it's isolated in the doomy section, it goes right back to being fast instead of building and then kind of going where I thought it was going to go into like a nasty breakdown, and it doesn't do that. So it was a little confusing. Yeah,
that isolated doomy harmony, like it comes after a just nasty breakdown on its own. I thought they were going to like, all right, we're going to slow it down another half step, kind of add some doom to it, and the rest of the song very dark and sinister. Lots of Morbid Angel riffs and tremolos in there, and the tremolos in here are fucking awesome. But yeah, you're prepping yourself for one thing, and it's almost kind of like a bait and switch at the end where it's like, no, we're just going to go back to the beginning of the song. But I feel like this little melody, I don't know, it teases something very different. You prepare yourself to be brought down to the fucking very depths of hell because you died on the battlefield, because I think that's what this album is. But it kind of just takes you right back to the battlefield. And not that it's bad, I don't think anything on here is really bad at all. In fact, it's really fucking good. It's just That one, and it really just kind of comes across as jarring. Like, maybe just remove that little isolated doomy section there altogether and just transition back to, the bulk of the song, the faster section out of that breakdown. But outside of that, my complaints are very minimal. Yeah, it is very similar to a lot of bands out there right now, but it's a lot of bands that I like. But honestly, when it's done well, it really doesn't matter because, like, these guys check all the boxes for this style. It's done really well. The riffs are fucking pummeling. It feels urgent. They feel committed to it. It's got all the fucking energy you need, and it sounds like it's gonna be fucking killer live. So overall, I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars. I dug this. This is a killer album. I still need to check out the first one. I'm a sucker for bolt thrower riffs. That is not a secret on this channel at all. But again, like, seeing these new bands sort of employ it differently, and they do mix it up a little bit, throwing in some darker, more sinister stuff towards the end of the album. I do like how it is paced with that. It's just some of the transitions came across as a little wonky, and my other complaint is, it sounds a lot like, other bands out there that really do this sound well as well. Which, that kind of circles back to the bolt thrower well joke, because, it's a well that a lot of bands are going to, but it's a well rich with riffs, and I love that entire discography. If you love, bolt thrower and, Frozen Soul, Creeping Death, Gate Creeper, like, this is 100% the band for you. This is just pummeling, sick death metal, lots of caveman energy. It oogas, it boogas, it ungas, it bungas, and I dig it.
What more can I say? First of all, you'll have to pardon me. I'm still getting over whatever the hell cold we had a couple weeks ago. Yep, that's right. Go over there. Yeah, so if I'm sniffly and sound like I'm gonna die, it's the real thing. However, this record for me is also a 3.5. Again, who doesn't love Bolt Thrower? This band draws from that well quite nicely. They do it well. Not only does it unga, but it boogas. That's right, unga booga. I said it. You heard it here first. Who doesn't like a record full of nasty, chunky riffs and evil tremolos? These guys do that quite well. While it is a sound that is out there quite a bit, these guys are no slouches in that department. It's a nice addition to the unga booga family. Who doesn't like meat and taters? I love meat and taters. I had meat earlier this week, and I had taters. But this band gave it to me again. It's simplistic, but I like that. While it is a little transition happy at times, and it doesn't go necessarily where I think it's gonna go, I'm not in this band, so I didn't write it. It sounds great, but overall it's a 3.5 for me.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon is there. Our store is there. It is kind of barren at the moment, but we will be reloading on that after we get back from Denver Death Fest.
Denver Death Fest, April 20th through the 22nd in Denver, Colorado. 3 days, 28 bands, $65 for 3 days, $45 for 2 days, and $25 for 1 day. Now, that is pre-sale prices. Pre-sales are only going on through the 15th of April. If you wait any longer than that, you got to pay $35 a day. Doesn't matter to me. Maybe you want to save a couple bucks. Maybe you don't. Come out for 1 day. Come out for all 3. Come out and hang out with us. Have some beers. Bang your head. We're going to do a lot of head banging because we here at Thralls of Metal love to head bang.
And we also love Advil.
And comfortable shoes. And back support. And, all the things that make us old. Anyway, come out to Denver Death Fest. It's going to be a super good time. Thank you to all our sponsors, our vendors, most notably all the bands on this package. We are super excited to have everybody join us.
And of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit. It means the fucking world to us. It's awesome to see this channel grow. We have a ton of stuff we are going to do on here, and I'm going to take my leave for a little bit for a vacation. I'm probably going to come back with a giant stack of music, so get ready for some collection updates in the future. But these fine gentlemen, and by these fine gentlemen, I mean Jammin John and the other 2 people that you don't see here, are going to take over on some reviews and content and such while I'm gone. But once I get back, I'm going to get right back to it. And yeah, tons of stuff coming in the future. Thank you all once again, and we will catch you later.